Hi, and welcome back to Thone's Mount Nibbles, number 34, True Worship, Prayer, Private. Here we're going to be talking about Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 7. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets. They may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in heaven in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. So this is a kind of an interesting one. It almost sounds like a newspaper article. We're talking about where, when, how, and why we pray privately with God. And by the way, that means this is not about corporate prayer, which we will be talking about later. Why is this in the Bible? A tutorial on the do's and don'ts of prayer. And the communication, what is the purpose of prayer, with a question mark. Application to my life. The where. We should generally pray in private. The prayer room is any private location where we can be alone with God. The when. Any available time when we can quietly and privately speak with God. The how. The communication of the prayer should be heartfelt by you. It should not be a rapid repetition of the thoughts of yourself or of someone else. This does not imply that we should not read or study another person's prayer. The point is that we want the thoughts in prayer to generally be about our feeling for God, our requests of God, and our thanks of God. And so if another person, if you read someone else's prayer, and that other person was having the same issues that you were having, then it might be appropriate to incorporate that part of that prayer into your own personal prayer. However, just making all your prayers carefully thought out from the viewpoint of good grammar, good English, and whatever else, that isn't the point. God already knows what you need. You are just expressing to Him your understanding that He is the only one who can grant that you love Him, and you would really appreciate that you would give Him, that He would give you what it is you needed. The why. The prayer should spring from the heart and represent love for God, trust in God, and any petition we may have for God's assistance in our lives. This need not, and let me state this carefully, this need not be a dramatic presentation. You see, great prayers on television sometimes, or in movies sometimes, that are very eloquent, very emotional. That isn't what it needs to be. It's okay if it is eloquent and emotional. God doesn't mind that. But the key is it to be a humble request for God's support in your life. God says, prayer life is your private and intimate channel of communication with me. It's private, it's intimate, and it is how we speak with God. Consider ourselves privileged. Remember, the Old Testament people did not have this privilege except in the very, very early part, like in Eden and so on. They generally had, basically they brought a lamb to be slaughtered, and the priests slaughtered it, and then once a year, the high priest slaughters a representative animal for all the people of the year who have been going through this process, and takes the blood from that offering into the Holy of Holies, the only day in the year that he can do that. He takes it in twice. Actually, he goes in twice. He goes in the first time with blood representing his sins to be forgiven, and that gives him the authority, so to speak. After those sins have been forgiven, then he can bring in the blood that represents everybody else and presents it to God, and those people will be looked on favorably, would be a good way to put it, for the coming year. It's not a forgiveness forever like what we're used to now with Jesus, but it is a forgiveness for a time. And it was the way that the people of God were able, with their understanding, if they had good understanding of God, they knew they were still sinners, and they were just doing what God said they had to do to continue to survive as God's people. What a privilege that intimate conversation is today. We can go to him anytime we want. Don't have to slaughter an animal. Don't have to do anything but just go to a private place and talk to him. What a wonderful, wonderful God he is. See you next time.